Hello everyone. Uh, I'm Dr. Ashish Samarpit Noel, Associate Professor and Head Department of Agricultural Economics, Sam Higginbotham University of Agricultural Technology and Sciences, Naini Pragraj. Today I'll be talking on the topic Economic and Marketing Challenges to maintain demand and supply balance in Indian economy post COVID-19 lockdown. Right now in India, consumption is very low as people are buying only groceries and essentials. There's no sale of vehicle, flats, or consumer durables. When the economy will open fully, there will be a shortage of supply and an explosion of demand for the time being, followed by shortage of demand due to falling disposable income of the households. Now, when we talk about demand in the economy, the cash flow in the economy determines the consumption demand. But accumulation of cash flow towards a particular segment of the society in the economy adversely affects the consumption demand in the economy. Now we'll be talking about the factors that contribute to the reduction in demand and supply. Now these factors may be common. First is unemployment. Now unemployment is at all-time high at 27.1%. This is the figure during early May. Almost 71% of the daily wage earners lost their jobs. 23% of the large entrepreneurs reported job losses. Number of salaried employees dropped by 21%. Now, otherwise, if we see the employment figures, employment in March 2020 was at 40 crores of individuals, which fell to 28.2 crores in April 2020 and approximately 26.8 crores in early May 2020. That simply means that during May, almost 14 crores of individuals became unemployed who were previously employed. Now, factors contributing to the reduction in demand and supply. The looming NPA risk is building up dark clouds on MSME sector, which contributes to around 6.11% of manufacturing GDP and 24.63% of GDP from service activities, as well as 33.4% of India's manufacturing output. Now, this is a sizable amount of contribution which is done by the MSME sector. So, the stressed any any uh, any sort of stress in this particular sector will affect the India's GDP in a big way. Now, other factors which contributes to demand and supply, reduction in demand and supply, that are 40% of MSMEs may be forced to close down permanently because of financial stress. Now, this financial stress is getting built up because of the interest payments which they are forced to pay during the lockdown when there is no revenue. They also have to pay the fixed expenses during this lockdown. So this is putting the MSME enterprises under stress. Fixed operating expenses, again, we had already talked about it. Now, these are the expected change in consumption, and this change in consumption has been categorized in different segments of the society class wise. Now we will be doing this categorization class wise and income wise as well. So first we will see the consumption pattern in various segments of the society class wise. The first class is the labor class. The major segment that will be impacted is the daily wage earners. Now 70% of them have already migrated to their homes. Maybe we are expecting that out of this 70%, almost 70% will return within 6 months of when the lockdown ends. Now, this segment of the society contributed largely to the essential item consumption, particularly eatables to a greater extent. Now, this is very important factor. Now, because this is the total consumption may be less of this particular segment of the society as compared to the total consumption of the whole economy. But this particular segment of the society contributes majorly to the essential item consumptions, particularly eatables. Now, so what is going to happen when their income levels will go down because they are out of jobs. When their income levels will go down, their purchasing power will go down, and when their purchasing power will go down, the consumption made by them will fall, and this will lead to a fall in demand in the essential item, particularly eatable segment, which will further lead to deflation in a long run. Now, service class individuals working in private sectors are facing pay cuts and job losses, or are expecting it in near future. Now, reduction in the disposable income of this particular segment may not necessarily affect the essential item consumption, but will adversely affect the non-essential item consumption. Next is the service class individuals working in central and state governments. They are also facing minor reduction in their disposable income due to the cuts announced by the government in their allowances. Now, but their cuts are very minor. The fall in percentage, if we see, of their disposable income is too less as compared to other segments of the society to impact their consumption demand. Instead, their consumption may rise as falling demand may lead to deflation, thereby increasing their purchasing power. Micro and micro, small and medium enterprise, that is MSME, with high leverage are expected to face acute financial distress. We had discussed this earlier also, due to the looming NPA, that is non-performing asset risk, as a result of increasing debt burden because of compounding interest during the moratorium period when there is no revenue for this MSME sector. So now during this lockdown, though the moratorium has been announced, but the interest payments are still building up. They have not been reduced by the government of India, which was expected that they will reduce the interest rate by sizable amount, but they had not done it. They had only announced a moratorium period where you can delay the EMI payments. Now this moratorium period is building up on the interest as well as and adding to the principal outstanding. So it is contributing to the debt burden of the MSME sector, placing the MSME sector into a financial distress. Now, with zero nominal revenues and fixed operating expenses, many units will be forced to close down permanently. Studies have suggested closure of up to 40% of business in worst scenario. Now, if we see the recent announcements done by the central government in this area, the central government has announced a package of 3 lakh, which is actually, I won't say it as a package of 3 lakhs, because that is a loan which the MSME sector can avail, where the guarantor will be the government of India. So the banks will not be facing the credit risk. The credit risk will be borne by the government of India. Now, in this case also, if the MSME sector is availing this loan, they again have to pay the interest, which is ranging from 8.3 to almost 16.25%, depending on the different size of unit or type of unit. But the interest rate is there, and in addition to this interest rate, the government of India is also charging 1% per annum as fees for providing this guarantee. So now this burden, if that means if the loan goes for almost 4 years, so 1% per year would be 4%. 4% will be charged by the government of India as fees for providing this credit guarantee. So now this will again build up the cost of the MSME sector, further not relieving them from the financial distress which they were in, but it will further build on their financial distress. Those MSMEs which were in good positions and who can build up on your sales in a short period of time, they may not get affected. Now, the next is now we'll categorize the various segments based on the income of the society or income of the households. Based on the income of households, we have categorized the society into 5 categories. Now, was a study conducted by BCG Group, and this was conducted for the year 2018, where they had categorized all the households into five categories. One was income, the households who were having income below 1.5 lakhs, households whose income was between 1.5 to 5 lakhs, households whose income was between 5 lakhs to 10 lakhs, household whose income was between 10 lakhs to 20 lakhs, and 20 lakhs and above. Now, so this was a study conducted by the BCG Group. Now, findings of this study, if we go to the details, the findings of this study was the strugglers. Strugglers is the group where the annual income is less than 1.5 lakhs. The strugglers who are 23% of the total households. That means out of the total households who are contributing to the consumption demand, 23% are the strugglers, and they contribute to 10% of the consumption demand. This is the data of 2018. So 23% of the population households are contributing to 10% of the consumption demand, but because they are low income group people, they are majorly contributing to essential items. The next category was next billion earnings group. This group was from 1.5 lakhs to 5 lakh, annual income of 1.5 to 5 lakhs, which constitutes 45.1% of the total household. So a major part of the population of household was basically belonging to this particular group, and have contributed to the maximum, that is 30% of the total consumption in 2018. So this is the basically category which contributes maximum to the total consumption, and which constitutes also the maximum part of the population of the total households. Now, these segments of the society contributes largely to essential items consumption, particularly eatables to greater extent, both the strugglers as well as the next billion. Their share in total consumption was 44%. If we combine both of them, their share would be 34 plus 10, that is 44% in 2018. Now, the next is the expected, the aspiring and the affluent household, which include both service class and business class. Now, these are households whose income is between 5 lakhs to 20 lakhs per annum. Now, 28% of the total households belonged to this particular group, and they contribute jointly to around 43% of the total consumption demand. Now, the aspiring and affluent household contributes to non-essential items as compared to essential items. So they are basically contributing to non-essential items. This segment is facing pay cuts and layoffs, thereby reducing the disposable income of this segment. Since this segment jointly holds 43% of the total consumption, if we see 43% of the total consumption is done by this particular group, it will impact non-essential items, including luxury items and semi-luxury items consumption demand in a considerable amount. Next is the elite class and above category of individuals with annual income of more than 20 lakhs. Now, this particular category will be least impacted on consumption front. On income front, they may be impacted too much, but on consumption front, they may be impacted least. They may impact the consumption demand, but since this segment share of consumption in domestic consumer market is less than 13% in 2018, so it will barely impact the essential item consumption, and may slightly impact the non-essential semi-luxury, but may considerably impact the luxury item consumption, because we see a major part of the luxury item consumption belongs to this particular group, elite class. Now, till now we were seeing the demand aspects. Now we will analyze the supply aspects in the economy. What will be the effect of the supply on the supply in the economy of this particular lockdown? Now, in Indian economy, the Indian economy is already reeling under a demand depression, raising unemployment and lowering of industrial output and profits. All of this is happening together for several quarters now. A supply side constraints would deliver a big blow, jeopardizing growth prospects and social and economic well-being of a large number of people. Now, Leverage and small and medium scale businesses are expected to face acute financial distress due to this increasing debt burden. Now, this will influence the supply in the economy negatively, raising risk of inflation. This inflation is even worse as the supply as the supply falls below the reduced demand compared to pre-lockdown. Now, this inflation is worse. Why? Because this inflation will happen because of the falling supply as compared to the pre-lockdown period. Now, manpower will be a constraint with MSMEs, indicating that 30 to 70% of the pre-COVID workforce might have migrated back to their hometowns due to uncertainties and loss of income due to lockdown. Now, how it will impact the supply side? It will be a challenge to convince the staff to return or acquire new staff. And the staff changeover is expected to impact negatively on productivity, quality, and defect rates, adding further to the supply concerns. Next is machinery and stock of raw material, work in progress, and final product will have degraded due to the lockdown. Now, because the lockdown has almost extended till now for almost 2 months. So for 2 months, the raw materials are lying, machineries are not working. So all have degraded. So the MSME will need to undertake outstanding maintenance and services and clean out wasted stocks before they can resume operation at a significant cost. All this will come with a cost, which will be very high, hitting even more the MSME sector, with likely write-offs to stock currently trapped on site, further delaying the supplies restart. Now, these are some suggestions. Already, government is making direct cash transfers. Uh, some suggestions can be that these direct cash transfers of 3,000 to 5,000 rupees per month for the most economically disadvantaged 12 crore household uh, should be extended for a period of at least 6 months more. Now, Manrega can be a key for reviving the daily wages employees, and public works programs such as building of rural roads, public health infrastructure, primary school buildings, and the like may be in focus in this particular Manrega scheme. RBI should reduce the interest rate to zero or nominal rate to offload the increased debt burden because of compounding interest during the moratorium period. With zero or nominal revenues, RBI should reduce the interest rates to zero or nominal rates. The micro and household enterprise will suffer the most, and therefore public support must be extended. Conclusion. Now, with all this which we have discussed, we can conclude the Indian government will have to come up with a structured fiscal stimulus enabling the balanced distribution of cash flow in the economy. So the fiscal stimulus should basically see that both the demand side and the supply side is taken care of. It should not be that the cash is induced in the economy, but the supply side is disturbed, and that will lead to inflation. If cash is not in the economy and supply is there, that will lead to deflation. So the government should commit itself to maintaining this balance, and it should also commit itself to the fact that additional revenue raised through additional tax imposed and through increased borrowings should be utilized to support the purchasing power of different segments of the society. Because if this purchasing power will not increase, the supply could not be revived, so as to promote sustainable consumption. If the consumption economy is not revived, then there may be a situation of deflation in the economy, which will derail all efforts of the government to resume supply to normal. Deflation, not inflation, is a real risk, which with demand crashing, pushing the economy into depression. On the other hand, government along with the RBI should take measures for maintaining liquidity in the industry so as to avoid supply disruption to keep inflation under control. Thank you.